Once upon a time, in a lush and vibrant land nestled between the hills and the plains of an African country, there was a place where the rivers sang songs of life. These rivers, adorned with shimmering waters, were the veins of the earth, nourishing the people, their crops, and their animals. The rivers were revered and celebrated as the heartbeats of the land, and their mighty flow was seen as a blessing from the gods. In this land, the people lived in harmony with nature. They understood that the rivers were not just bodies of water, they were sacred. The elders would gather the children beside the river banks to teach them stories of the gods who had shaped the earth with their hands, molding the rivers and mountains as gifts to the people. The rivers were believed to carry the wisdom of the ancestors, and their waters were said to cleanse the soul. But as time passed, greed crept into the hearts of men. In the small villages, whispers began to spread about hidden treasures beneath the riverbeds. Gold, precious and alluring, lay buried in the earth, waiting to be unearthed. The promise of wealth was intoxicating. The young men, eager for riches, began to break the sacred pact with the land. They turned to illegal mining, galamsey, they called it, digging into the rivers with no thought for the balance of life that had existed for generations. At first, the mining was small and scattered, but like wildfire, it spread. As the miners dug deeper and deeper into the riverbeds, the rivers began to change. Their once clear waters turned murky and brown, choked by the dirt and chemicals used in the mining process. Fish, once abundant and joyous in the flowing waters, vanished. The banks of the rivers, where families had once gathered to wash clothes and play, were now scared with pits and piles of discarded earth. The gods, who had watched over the land for centuries, saw this. They looked upon the rivers that had once been the sacred gifts and wept silently. The gods had always spoken to the people through the rivers. In the past, the ripples on the water had carried their voices, guiding the people to wisdom, to peace, and to respect for the earth. But now, the gods' whispers were drowned by the clamor of machinery and the ceaseless digging. Their voices went unheard, their pleas ignored. As the rivers began to die, so too did the life around them. The land grew barren, and crops withered in the fields that once flourished. The people, caught in the grip of their desires, failed to see the signs. They were blinded by the fleeting promises of wealth, too consumed by their hunger for gold, to notice that their prosperity was turned into dust. The elders, wise and sorrowful, gathered in secret. They knew the ancient ways and understood that the rivers were the lifeblood of their people. They had heard the gods' silent cries. They knew that without the rivers, the land would perish and the people would lose their way. The elders spoke of the sacred bond between the people and the earth, but their voices too were drowned out by the greed that consumed the land. And so, the gods, seeing that their beloved rivers were beyond saving, withdrew from the land. The heavens grew dark, and the winds grew cold. The once beautiful rivers were now nothing more than scars on the earth, a testament to the greed of mankind. The people, now faced with the consequences of their actions, realized too late the price of their blind ambition. The story of the rivers is now told as a warning, a tale of how the gods looked on in silence as the gifts were destroyed. It is a story passed down from generation to generation, a reminder that the earth, in all its beauty, is not to be taken for granted. The rivers may never return to their former glory, but their lessons remain etched in the hearts of the people. For the rivers that once flowed with life are now silent. They weep for the land that once thrived, and for the people who allowed their greed to destroy the very thing that gave them life. And in the silence, the gods still wait, watching, hoping that the people will remember.